Hi, this is Cheryl, and I am bringing you chapter 4 in my son Jason's Adventures in Autism. So, this is chapter 4. It'll probably be, I'm not going to say the last chapter, but it's the last chapter in the explanation of kind of how he got started, how we got started in this process. And today I want to talk with you about how I was able to get him to say his first words. Because by 5 years old, he still wasn't speaking really. He was making some sounds. He wasn't really engaging and asking for things. We had to kind of interpret what he wanted, when he wanted it. It was kind of a guessing game, but we were trying to get him to interact with some kind of language. And what I realized early on, probably when he was, I want to say 3 or 4 years old, is that I hadn't ever seen him like stick his tongue out. A lot of babies, he did suck his thumb. Of course, he sucked on a bottle for a long time. He didn't go to a cup until at least 5 years old. And then it was a sippy cup. And then he didn't actually drink from a regular cup till he was close to 7. And that was part of his tactile issues. But what I noticed is that he didn't stick his tongue out. So if you were to, most kids, you stick your tongue out and they'll mimic you. He didn't do that. He also never did yawn if somebody else yawned. That was an odd thing that I noticed. Everyone else in the room would yawn if you yawn. He didn't even pay attention to it. And even if he was looking right at your face, he didn't yawn. So I found that interesting. Anyway, so getting him to mimic me sticking out my tongue and getting him to learn he could control his tongue, I really believed that by getting him to do that, he would maybe be able to learn to speak. So we started with those kinds of games. We went blah, blah, blah. And in our gym at the time, my sister and I had this little game we played with the kids, the little toddlers and mommy and me classes, 2-year-olds, let's say 3-year-olds. We did what we called lizards, and it was lizard push-ups. So basically it was laying flat on the ground, push yourself up, and then we'd go lizards, la 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 la. So in playing that game and realizing that when we were doing classes for children with sensory issues, including my son, we realized a lot of them couldn't do that. So I thought, well, wow, if they're not exercising that noise making with their tongue, how are they supposed to engage in learning how to speak certain words? So we started with that. Once he could do that and he could go, make the little spitting noise with his tongue, I realized that he was learning to manipulate his mouth better. And soon I found what foods would work to bribe him, and he loved ice cream. And so he would want some of what I had. So I'd get to where I'd make him say, "Bite, please." And so instead of mama or daddy or whatever, his first words were "bite, please." So it was "buh-puh, buh-puh." And so he's making those consonant sounds, which the consonant sounds are the toughest sounds for them to make. So I feel like by him learning those particular consonant sounds, it just made it easier for him to kind of follow. It's like it broke the ice somehow. It kind of opened the floodgates, and he was able to start learning more words. Now he's fairly nonverbal at this point. He always has been. In other words, he won't carry on a full-on conversation with you, but he can ask for what he wants. He can say yes or no. He will mimic things that he hears. So when I say nonverbal, it's not that he's not saying words. It's that he's not really able to sit down and carry on a conversation with anyone. And you have to know him well enough to know what he's asking for, what it means when he says certain things. So there's a language barrier between him and people who don't know him. So anyway, that's how he learned to speak, and we're still working with him on that. We try to get him to use his words, and we just say when he wants something, use your words, use a sentence. So we try to make him use sentences. And I'm going to post at the end of this a little sort of mini interview I did with him. So I'm going to introduce you to Jason, and I'm asking him questions, and you can kind of see what his language is like. and I hope you enjoy it. I want to say I hesitate to bring my son into these videos. I have taken a lot of videos of my son to help educate people, but it's a tough call for parents of children with special needs, because on the one hand, they can't advocate for themselves, so a lot of people say you shouldn't do it. It's not fair to them, you know. But then on the other hand, how do I educate the public? How do we not only help other parents see this is what my kid is like, and they can make comparisons, or educate the public, because so many people out there really truly believe that it's all about what you might see on I think the show's called Atypical. You know, there's a variety of different shows out there that have supposedly people on the spectrum on the shows, but rarely is it a person like my son. It's always somebody who, thank goodness, has far more opportunity for living independently, or at least being able to advocate for themselves somewhat. There's not a lot of publicity about children like my son, so parents find it frustrating because doctors, teachers, whoever, anyone who's not educated enough on it, they're just going to assume when you say your child has autism that they're like those kids or those adults instead of like mine. So they don't get it when, you know, you talk about the challenges, because that it's foreign to them. So yes, I am exploiting my son. I'm exploiting him so that people can understand what it's really like and understand why services are important, why supported employment is important. I want people to understand those things. So thank you for listening. This is a little bit of a long one, and hopefully you can tune into my next one, and then I'm going to title them by the subject matter from now on. So this is the last one that talks about just the progress in the beginning. All right, thank you, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks. Bye.